When I arrived at the estate, I knew instantly I wasn't supposed to be there. The white event tent flapped gently in the breeze, anchored to the back lawn of my cousin Sarah's lakefront property. Cars lined the gravel drive like a wedding or funeral had just ended. Laughter echoed from the tent, casual and full. A man handed me a flute of champagne without asking my name. I took it. My hands were steady. I walked slow on purpose. Not to delay. No, I was ready, but to let them see me. Let them register that someone had arrived who wasn't in their plan. I caught my reflection in the back window of a catering van, a fitted black jumpsuit, hair swept into a clean knot, face unreadable. You could tell I didn't belong to their event, but I also didn't look like someone who wanted in. No one turned immediately. Then someone did. Aunt Mel. Her eyes fixed on me as though seeing a ghost. Not the kind you scream at, just the kind that makes your stomach drop because you forgot they were no more. She whispered something to the person beside her. He turned. More heads followed. I didn't smile. I didn't come to start a scene. I didn't even park in the front. I came because I was curious. I came because 10 years of silence is a long time to pretend nothing still echoes. And because my family never officially disowned me, they just forgot to invite me to things. Like this, a reunion for all 6 generations still alive, hosted at the same house where we used to have Sunday barbecues when I was 10, and no one had picked sides yet. I wasn't on the guest list. I knew that. I'd found out through a shared photo on my old college friend's Instagram. With the cousins at the reunion. It read, her boyfriend was related to Sarah. Small world. I stared at the post for 5 full minutes before closing it. That was 4 days ago. Inside the tent, they'd started a trivia game about family history. Who was the first to come to America? What year Uncle Joe married? Who had twins? I stood outside the circle but close enough to hear. A few kids sat cross-legged on picnic blankets. My brother Jason was on one of the folding chairs, answering questions like a game show contestant. He didn't notice me. No one offered me a seat. That was fine. I didn't need one. I moved toward the drinks table. Someone brushed past me, a cousin's wife maybe, and gave me a tight, polite smile, like I was one of the caterers who'd taken off the apron. But she didn't recognize me. That was worse than recognition. Worse than resentment. I took a small sip of the drink. It was sweet, fizzy, impersonal. Voices changed as word trickled through the tent. People were trying not to stare, but they were. My mother was the last to see me. When she did, she stood up, just a few inches, a reflex, then slowly sat back down. Her hand hovered midair like she'd been planning to wave, but didn't want to make a mistake. No one came to greet me. I could have left. That would have been the easy thing, the grown-up thing, maybe even the thing they expected. But instead, I just stood there and let the silence do what it does best, fill everything. My niece, Jason's daughter, I think, walked up holding a cookie. Are you part of a game? I knelt to her level. Not today. Oh, you can have a cookie if you want. They're sugar ones. I smiled. Thanks. She wandered off again, simple kindness from someone too young to know who to exclude. My mother was still staring. A tremor moved through her jaw. She tried to smile like she wasn't sure if I'd returned to destroy something or to mourn it. The funny thing was, I didn't feel angry, not even sad. I felt outside of it all, clean, like after you shed a skin. But the look on her face, that mixture of guilt and confusion, was the closest thing to acknowledgement I'd gotten in a decade. That was when I left. I didn't wait for someone to come say hi. I didn't ask for a plate of food or say a single word to my father, who'd been sitting at the far side of the tent the whole time pretending not to see me. I walked back to my car, turned the engine, and drove. I didn't go far. Only 20 minutes. Just far enough for the road to slope into a better neighborhood, for the trees to line up taller, more symmetrical, for the sidewalk to widen. My house stood behind a quiet gate, newly painted, clean gravel, dark wood, modern lines, and soft lights glowing by the windows. I parked in the roundabout driveway, got out, and waited. Because I knew someone would follow me, and they did, one by one, cars slowing down, then stopping, people stepping out unsure, eyes scanning the house, mouths slightly open. No one said anything at first, but their faces turned pale. My name is Camille Hartwell. I'm 37 years old. I live in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of the city, in a house I designed myself, paid for in full, and walked into alone on the day it was finished. I own a small but rising product design company, Hartwell Studio, where we specialize in modular home furniture that adapts to compact city living. We're not flashy, no viral launches, just strong quarterly growth, a feature last year in Dwell, and a limited licensing deal we just signed with an international chain. We also got picked up by a Scandinavian firm for eco-collaboration next year. That's the real game changer. But I didn't grow up around people who thought any of that mattered. To them, real success was doctor, lawyer, wife. Wife first, actually. The first time I disappointed my father was when I told him I'd turned down my law school acceptance to pursue industrial design. He didn't yell. He just got up from the dinner table and didn't finish his meal. My mother cried softly, like I'd passed away. My sister Elise told me I was ungrateful. Jason didn't say anything. He never did, not when it mattered. And I didn't fight. I packed my things and left the same week. That was 10 years ago. At first, I tried to stay in touch, sent photos of prototypes, updates about awards. They never replied, but I kept sending. Hope is a hard habit to break. Eventually, the silence became my answer. One by one, they left me off the invites. First, Elise's bridal shower. Then Jason's baby announcement. I only found out when a college friend posted pictures. The final blow came when my father had surgery and no one called to tell me. I found out through a chain email forwarded accidentally by a family friend. I drove 6 hours that night, panicked. When I got there, my mother opened the door and said, "Oh, I didn't think you'd come." That was the moment I stopped trying. The years that followed weren't easy. I couch surfed during the first 2 years of building the company. My business partner quit after our first failed launch, and I burned through my savings paying freelancers just to keep the website alive. I ate rice and eggs for 6 months and didn't take a vacation for 5 years. There were nights I fell asleep on my work table, covered in fabric samples and post-it notes. And still, I kept thinking about my father. The way he used to sharpen pencils with a pocket knife and line them up on the dining table, his hands were always steady. He was an engineer, old school. Built a small firm from scratch and expected his son to inherit it. Jason wasn't interested. I was. But I didn't count. He told me once, when I was 11, that men build and women decorate. I asked him why the person who invented the circular saw was a woman. He told me not to be disrespectful. I remember that moment clearly, because it was the first time I realized he'd rather be wrong than corrected by me. When I launched my first product line, collapsible desk units with magnetic joins, I mailed him a sample. No note. Just the box. It was returned unopened, with a yellow sticker that said, "Refused. Return to sender." I kept the box anyway. It's still in my studio, unopened, like a ghost. And then something happened. 2 years ago, I got a call from Cityline Daily, a regional paper. They wanted to feature women in male-dominated industries. A friend of a friend had pitched me. They photographed me in the studio holding a torque wrench, laughing. The article went semi-viral. A podcast picked it up. Then a small investment firm reached out, wanting to fund a limited run. We signed. My company tripled its revenue in 6 months. The thing that kept me warm at night wasn't the money. It was the moment I Googled my name and saw my face in Architectural Digest sidebar under 10 Women Transforming Space. I thought about printing it and sending it to my mother. I didn't. The truth is, I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way they expected me to be. That's what makes people nervous, when the person you cast out doesn't scream at the gates. She just builds a better home. When I walked out of that family reunion, it wasn't to make a point. I didn't expect anyone to follow me. But as I pulled up to my house, and stepped into the garden I planted with my own hands, I heard a car engine behind me, then another and another. I didn't turn around right away. I let them park, let them step out. The first one to approach was Elise, my sister. Always so polished, even now in her beige cardigan and sensible heels. She looked at the house, then at me, then back at the house. "You live here?" It wasn't a compliment. It was confusion layered in disbelief. I didn't answer. Jason came next. He looked pale. "Camille, we didn't know." I smiled slightly. "No, you didn't." My mother stood at the curb, hand on her purse strap like it was holding her up. I noticed she was still wearing the same silver locket she always wore. The one she got from my father when Elise was born. She never replaced it, never took it off. Some loyalties don't change. "I didn't come to ruin anything," I told them. "I just wanted to see." "To see what?" Elise asked. "If you'd notice, I was gone." The wind shifted just enough to pull my voice into the silence. Elise lowered her eyes. Jason looked away. None of them asked me to come back. But none of them turned to leave either. They were still standing there, still trying to process that the person they erased had not only survived, but built something better than they imagined. There was no dramatic pivot point, no fireworks or divine moment of arrival, just slow, steady progress that no one clapped for but me. That's the thing about building something from nothing. It doesn't look like success until it's done. My company, Hartwell's Studio, was born in a drafty sublet apartment with cracked tile and bad wiring. My first desk was a door laid across 2 crates. I I sketched ideas at 2 a.m. and used YouTube to teach myself CAD while neighbors argued through the walls. Some nights I couldn't tell if I was awake because of ambition or just insomnia. I kept to myself. While Elise was planning gender reveal parties and Jason was promoted at Dad's firm, I was emailing vendors in China and haggling with local machinists. No holidays, no birthdays, no family events. Just me, my vision, and a growing stack of rejection emails from banks who wouldn't fund a niche idea in a crowded market. I still remember the one that nearly broke me. A senior investor from a pitch competition pulled me aside after the final round and said, "You're smart, but this isn't a business. It's a hobby that got out of hand." I nodded like I appreciated the honesty. Then I went home and cried so hard I bruised the inside of my cheek, biting down not to wake the neighbors. I didn't quit. Instead, I redesigned the entire product line that month. I made it cleaner, simpler. I repitched with real metrics and pre-orders. And I applied to a sustainability grant in Copenhagen, knowing the odds were less than 3%. I got it. That grant didn't just save me, it validated me. The press coverage led to the Cityline Daily feature, which led to a spotlight on Green Spaces Weekly, which landed us in front of the buyer from Fjord & Form, a Scandinavian design firm known for sourcing ethical home goods. They placed a trial order. It sold out in 2 weeks. After that, everything snowballed. By the end of the fiscal year, I had my first real team. 5 employees, all women, all people who had also been underestimated somewhere. One was a single mother with a design degree she hadn't used in 8 years. Another had been fired after reporting harassment. We built each other up. I didn't talk to my family through any of it. Sometimes I imagined what they'd say if they knew. I imagined my mother flipping through Elle Decor, seeing my name and feeling, what, shame, pride, regret? But then I'd stop myself. That kind of fantasy still gives them too much weight. In real life, when my name started showing up in design circles, no one from my family reached out. Not even Elise, who once told me she followed everyone's accomplishments like it was a hobby. Not even when our modular pieces got installed in 2 boutique hotels in Seattle and Portland. Not even when I gave a talk at a Women in Tech forum and got a standing ovation. But people noticed. Other people. There was a woman named Kalina who'd been watching my growth from afar. She was part of a venture group in Austin, one focused on female founders. She called me directly and said, "I've been following your quiet little empire. Ready to make some noise?" She wasn't being cute. She had real money, real contacts. We met, we negotiated, and within 5 months, we had a strategic partnership in place. Hartwell Studio would retain creative control. Kalina's team would help us scale and license abroad. It was my dream scenario, and it came not because I chased it, but because I built something solid enough that people could finally stand on it with me. After the deal, she gave me a small gift, a silver key. At first I thought it was symbolic, but she smiled and said, "No, this is real. It opens the studio apartment I started my first company in. It's mine now, but I give it to every woman I invest in, so she remembers that good ideas are bigger than the space they're born in." I keep that key on my nightstand. Every time I look at it, I remember that room I started in. No insulation, no heat, a broken futon, and dreams bigger than my self-esteem. I still had the unopened package my father refused to accept, tucked on a shelf in the corner of the studio. Not for guilt, for proof. My house, the one they saw at the end of the reunion, wasn't just real estate. It was proof of who I became when no one clapped. I had a sunroom made entirely of glass. It was the first part I designed, a space to let in all the light no one gave me. People always say success is the best revenge. I don't believe that. Revenge keeps you tied to them. Success is best when it's quiet, when you can walk into a room and no longer need anyone to say they're sorry. But I did have one moment. One unexpected moment. 2 weeks before the reunion, Fjord & Form invited me to co-design a pop-up pavilion at Milan Design Week. It would be our largest international collaboration yet. They asked if I could fly out next month to meet their team. I said yes. And that same afternoon, Dwell magazine called to schedule a photo shoot at my house for a feature on future women of space. They wanted shots in my garden, my kitchen, my studio, wherever I felt most powerful. I hung up the phone and stared at the sunroom for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and opened Instagram. That's when I saw it. My old college friend, smiling at the camera in a family group shot, tagged at Sarah's lake house. Cousins together again. They were all there, all of them, except me. It took me 10 minutes to decide. 10 minutes to pull out a black jumpsuit, do my hair, and drive. I didn't go to make a statement. I went because something in me wanted to stand on the grass again, even if I had to do it as a stranger. And the house, the one they saw when they followed me, wasn't meant to impress them. It was just where I lived. It just happened to be everything they once said I'd never have. They didn't knock. They just stood there, on the other side of the gate, like a group of lost tourists who'd stumbled onto a landmark they hadn't expected. Elise, Jason, my parents. A few cousins I hadn't spoken to since my 20s. They weren't whispering anymore. No one was. I opened the gate from my phone. It slid silently, smooth on its track. That was on purpose. Every part of this house was built to move quietly. No slams, no squeaks, no echoes. I didn't need drama. I needed peace. They stepped inside like they were waiting to be stopped. "You can come in," I said. My voice didn't waver. The path was clean stone lined with low hedges. The scent of lemongrass and jasmine followed them as they walked in. No one said a word. Their eyes bounced from the sculpted garden to the high windows, the dark wood, the subtle angles of the house's modern design. "I thought you were renting," Elise said, blinking at the front door like it might dissolve if she looked too long. "No, I built it." "You built this?" Jason asked, almost laughing. "Yes," he nodded slowly, the way people do when they realize they've been standing on an entirely different map this whole time. I didn't let them into the main living room. Instead, I opened the side studio, the one that used to be the garage, now converted into a bright, functional workspace. Wall-mounted storage, open sketches, 3D prints drying on shelves. I saw my father's eyes narrow at the tools, the precision of the space. He recognized quality when he saw it. He just didn't expect it to be mine. "I remember this one," my mother said, walking slowly past a prototype desk. "You sent it to us." I didn't look at her. "You returned it." She stopped walking. "I didn't," she said softly. "Your father did." My father said nothing. He stood with his hands behind his back, the way he always had when judging something, projects, buildings, people. There was no apology in his silence, just inventory. "It's impressive," Jason finally said. "You've done, well," that phrase, like I'd resurfaced after drowning. "I didn't ask for your approval," I said, not harshly, just clear. "No, of course not," he replied quickly. None of us knew." "That's because you didn't want to." They looked down again. I turned and picked up a mug from the side table, a simple white ceramic one. It had a small crack along the handle, glued together with a thin line of gold. "Kintsugi. A gift from Kalina, the investor. Flaws can be beautiful too," she'd said. "Just depends who's looking." I held it for a moment, turning it in my hand. "I used to think I needed this moment," I said. "You here, seeing all of it, but I don't." My mother walked closer. "Then why let us in?" I thought about that. Not to be cruel, not to gloat. I wasn't proud of their discomfort, but I wasn't going to apologize for their shock either. I guess I wanted to see how you'd look at it. At me. "And?" Elise asked. "You all look a little lost." That landed. I could feel it. My father's jaw shifted. Elise's eyes hardened, but no one spoke. Because it was true. I didn't expect forgiveness. I wasn't offering it either. Not today. But something happened then. Something small. My father stepped closer to the work table. He picked up one of the newer models, a chair designed with collapsible joints, tested for 10,000 folds. His hands moved over the wood the way they used to move over blueprints when I was a kid, checking grain, weight, finish. He didn't say a word. But then, he nodded. Barely. Just once. Like he was admitting something. Not out loud. But in the only language he still knew how to speak. Craftsmanship. I didn't respond. The others moved to the doorway, unsure of their welcome. Elise lingered, looking at a wall of framed press clips I'd kept out of the main house. She stared at one, a photo of me and my team, smiling in front of our factory floor. "You built this whole thing from scratch?" she asked. "Yes, without any help." I looked at her. "Without any of your help." She looked away. Jason broke the silence. "We're planning another get-together next month, smaller, just the siblings." My chest didn't move. I didn't react. "I'll think about it," I said. It wasn't a yes, but it was more than they gave me for 10 years. They walked out slowly, not rushed, not proud, just aware. Awareness is the beginning of change. As they reached the gate, my mother paused. She looked down at her silver locket, then at me. "You're not what I pictured," she said. "You never saw me. I see you now." I didn't answer, because I didn't need her to see me anymore. But still, I watched her go, and when the gate slid shut, it made no sound at all. They didn't come back the next day, and that was fine. I didn't expect them to. But 2 days later, a letter arrived. No return address. Thick envelope, handwritten. Inside was a folded sheet of cream paper and nothing else. No apology. No long explanations, just 6 words. "Your father says it was beautiful." That was it. That was all I got. That was all he could give. And oddly, it was enough. Not because it made things whole again. Not because it erased anything. But because I knew him. I knew how impossible it was for him to write even that. My father never gave away words freely. When he said something was acceptable, it meant he was proud. When he said something was decent, it meant he thought it was brilliant. Beautiful was his highest offering. I placed the letter in a drawer. Didn't reply. Didn't need to. A week later, Dwell magazine arrived at the house for the shoot. They brought 2 photographers, a stylist, and a writer. They spent 3 hours in the sunroom. The writer asked me what inspired the house. Silence, I said, and needing a space where I could finally hear myself. She nodded like she understood. They photographed the cracked mug with the gold seam, asked if it meant something. It was broken, but not ruined, I said. By the time the article ran, I'd already been invited to 3 panels, 2 business school mentorships, and another design award submission. Things were moving quickly now, but I moved slower, more deliberately. I walked into meetings knowing exactly who I was. I wore flats and didn't apologize for being direct. I said no without softening it. I said yes, only when I meant it. One night, I got a text from Elise. Your house was perfect. I didn't say it then because I didn't know how. But you should know that I'm proud of you. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed a single word, thanks. I didn't offer more. I didn't ask for anything. I didn't need to, because something had shifted. Not between us, maybe not yet, but inside me. The Camille who once begged to be seen was gone. This one was already seen, by strangers, by colleagues, by herself. My success wasn't loud. It wasn't posted across family group chats or turned into speeches at dinner tables. It was private, interior, real. It was in the way people now pause before assuming. In the way my mother said my name last week on the phone, tentative, but softer than before. In the way Jason asked if I'd look at a prototype his son made for a school project. And it was in the way I said yes, because now I could say yes without losing anything. That weekend, I invited a few friends over. Women I'd built with, bled with, grown with. We cooked together in the open kitchen, sat on the patio as the light changed, laughed until our ribs hurt. No one asked where my family was, because they weren't missing from this picture. They were exactly where they needed to be, on the edge of my life, not the center. The key Kalina gave me still sat on my nightstand, and every now and then, when I passed it, I'd smile, because I'd outgrown that tiny room I started in, and I'd outgrown their silence too. I don't walk around angry anymore. I used to. For years, I carried that weight like it was proof of something, proof that I'd been wronged, proof that I mattered. But anger is heavy, and it's loud, and it doesn't build anything. Quiet does. Quiet lets you hear what needs fixing. Quiet gives you room to grow, to forgive, to stop waiting for people who don't show up. These days, I wake up early, before the calls, before the meetings. I sit in the sunroom with tea and nothing else. I watch the way the light stretches across the floor. Some mornings, I open the window just to feel the air change. The house is still, but not empty. I keep the mug with the golden seam on the kitchen shelf, where I can see it when I pour coffee. Not because I'm proud of the crack, but because it reminds me that what breaks doesn't always have to be hidden. Sometimes the repair is what makes it beautiful. I don't know what kind of relationship I'll have with my family going forward. Maybe we'll stay in polite orbit. Maybe we'll soften, maybe not. But I do know this, they saw me now. And even if they never fully understand what it took to build this life, I do. And I'm not building for their applause anymore. I'm building for me, quietly, steadily, beautifully, like I always was.